Good evening and welcome to the Board of Zoning Appeals for Monday, April 21st, 2025. The first item on our agenda this evening is the determination of a quorum. If we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Crowley is absent. Mr. Hanlon is absent. Mr. Tucker?
Present.
Mr. Cooper?
Present.
Mr. Powell is absent. Ms. Horner here. Ms. Narduzzi?
I'm here. The next item on our agenda is public participation, and if anyone is here in the audience with regard to any items that are not on our agenda this evening, now would be a time. All right, and then the next item are the minutes from our last meeting, which was April 7th, 2025. They were distributed earlier, and our trustee secretary, no, I'm sorry. Oh, they will be distributed at a later date,
yes,
and our trustee.
They were due to vacations. The
Okay.
transcript was not prepared. So
Okay, no, that's
I'll have
fine.
to look at that later this week.
Okay, no problem.
The trustee
The
secretary will review them.
Yes, she will. Okay, so we'll get those later. So we do have one item on our agenda carryover from the last meeting. It's BZ 25-002. Our applicant is Extra Storage LLC. Are they in the audience this evening? Okay, thank you. We did hold the public hearing on this matter 2 weeks ago, okay? But we did hold off on voting completely until we had an opportunity to hear from you, the applicant. So that being said, I will move forward. The location of the variance is City Lot 6859 on Quadrille Drive in an I-2 industrial, and the variance request is to the conditional zoning requirements for maximum building length and width for the traffic flow pattern within the site. Do you want to give a brief?
Yeah, I'll kind of fill you in. Yeah, so there are several variances required by this project. All of the buildings need a variance to the width of the building. Code says shouldn't be more than 40 feet. All of these buildings are 50 feet. There's also a provision that says building lengths shouldn't exceed 250 feet. Well, 3 of the buildings here exceed that requirement, and that's the 3 southernmost buildings. And one of the reasons we tabled this is because the site plans, we had 2 site plans. One showed the center building as 2 smaller pieces. The other one showed it as 1. Got an email from the applicants today. This is the proposed plan, and they've got the drainage to work around it. So there will be 3 buildings that exceed 250 feet in length. As we discussed last meeting, I'm not quite sure where those code requirements came from. I think they were really for public safety issues. But as I'd also mentioned, the way the site is designed and the improvements that need to be made, those issues are going to be handled. There are going to be 3 additional hydrants placed on site to provide fire protection. And then one of the other variances is required to traffic circulation, which states that it should be one way and allow for a 15-foot drive lane and a 10-foot parking lane. Well, all of the drives between the buildings provide at a minimum, I believe, 44 feet. So that allows for 2-way traffic flow. That allows for 2 12-foot traffic lanes and 2 10-foot kind of parking lanes along the frontages of each of the buildings where, you know, folks can load and unload. So again, with the oversized drive aisles, the additional on-street hydrants that are going to be constructed. In fact, you can sort of see one of them right here coming off of Quadrille Drive between the right at the frontage of the southernmost 2 buildings. There's one that's going to run along the south property line and terminates right there. And I believe the 3rd one is
just in between buildings 2 and 3.
okay. I see the storm sewer and let's see the storm. Yeah, it was going to be between these two particular buildings. It showed up on the plans that were approved by the commission. So I may not be seeing it all that clearly right now. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, if you just go up to the proposed building 3 and 2 on the left side there, you'll see the hydrants right.
Oh, got it. I was between, yes, right here. I see it now. So those are 3 hydrants in addition to the ones that are actually on the street. So all buildings have adequate fire protection. The drive aisle widths are well oversized to accommodate traffic flow, so there really is no safety issues with granting the variances. So the applicant's here, which they weren't last week, so if there's any additional questions, again, the proposed design doesn't really comply with the letter of the zoning regulations, but it does meet the intent. All of the issues that are of concern are easily addressed. So the only thing I would suggest is after you hear from the applicant, you might, since these variances all work in conjunction, you might want to make just one motion, but it should have three parts. Part one is that there should be a variance for all buildings to have a width of 50 feet instead of 40. The second part of that would be for three of the five buildings to exceed the 250-foot building length requirement. And then the third part of that variance would be to allow for two-way traffic circulation between the buildings when with two 12-foot drive aisles and two 10-foot parking lanes. And that should really cover all of the issues. And as I mentioned at our last meeting, it's already been looked at in pretty good detail by our engineering department, by the fire chief. They were involved in some of those preliminary discussion meetings to discuss fire protection and accessibility. And I believe during the engineering review, they will provide, I think they may be required to provide some truck turning templates, but at the last meeting, the fire chief was satisfied that they can maneuver all their vehicles around any of these buildings within the site.
Two questions, I don't know if it's for you or for the applicant. How many other fire hydrants are there on the property?
There are none. There's 3 new ones constructed, plus there are some along Quadro Drive. Those are typically spaced at 300 feet intervals. Okay, so some of those can still be used, but because the buildings are kind of deep, you know,
Right, yeah.
the far sides are well over 300 feet away. That's why the additional hydrants are required. There is in the city's fire code, provision that says all parts of every building have to be within 300 feet of a hydrant, and that's measured as you lay the hose, not a diameter or a circumference. So that's why these particular locations have been picked now, because they provide access to the southern and western side of the site.
To be able to get to the buildings, okay. And then at the last meeting, there were, and so these may be updated, but there was firewalls between the two bigger buildings.
Yes, you can address that. And there may, I don't know, the length of the third building, I think it's on one of these plans. But I think I thought in one of the plans I did see a firewall there as well, but I'm going to let.
Yes.
I believe so, yeah, so I'm going to let the applicant address that as well. But again, that's another fire suppression technique. So as the buildings get longer, you're going to have that 2-hour firewall. It then becomes, from the building and fire code point of view, becomes 2 separate buildings.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Jeff? Okay, as I said, we did already have our public hearing, so we are interested in hearing any information you would like the board to consider. Please start with your name and address for the record.
Alrighty, good evening, everyone. My name is AJ Jackson, live at 7163 Beach Road, Wadsworth, Ohio, 44281. I'll start back with the hydrant since that's fresh in our mind. There is 3 along Quadro Drive there. One is at the top northeast corner of the property. One is 300 feet from that on Quadro in front of the property itself, and then the other one is on the other side of the existing Ebner driveway. So, and that's to our south. So we do have the 3 there to start, and then yes, we'll be adding the 3 to meet the 300-foot requirement for that. We do have that 2-hour firewall on the new proposed plan we have with that. That takes the 2 buildings, turn into 1. That's building 3 there. That'll turn it into 1 single building technically. Other notes here I have.
So the 3 buildings have?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
So yeah, the 3 buildings will be over the 250 feet and they will have the 2-hour firewall in between, yep. And I had one more thing I wrote
Are
down.
the buildings pull through?
No, they're not. There's just man door and overhead door on single sides. The back is just strictly metal, and there'll be green space in between.
And there are no permanent or temporary businesses working out of?
No, this
would
is
be
strictly
working out of
storage,
strictly
yes. We have other storage units, and we stress that very much so in our contracts and everything when they're signing up. We don't want any shops pulling in there. We don't want people working there all day long. This isn't a park and work kind of situation. This is strictly just a store your
Right.
stuff. You know, you could be there for a few hours to unpack, reload, and you're out of there, absolutely, yeah.
That's also one of the conditional zoning requirements for these. So should someone rent one and start working out of there and it's noticed, the owners will get a violation notice and they can take it up with the tenant of that space. But yeah, these are not live-in units, not work-in use. Strictly, I guess it's for what's called, what do you call it, dead storage?
Yeah.
Personal property. They're also sized, as we discussed, they're large enough that you could back in an RV or a boat if necessary, if
Yep.
that's what you want.
And that was our main goal, going for the variance for the 50 feet. A lot of modern vehicles are, campers and such that people have are over that 40-foot length, especially if they have a truck and a trailer, something like that, they need to pull in. A lot of the new HOA and communities they're building around here don't even allow you to have a boat or third car or anything in the driveway, so everything must be garage kept. So I think this will be vital for the communities that they're building up. I know they're putting another huge Drees development right over here, so another 200 some homes. So I think that'll be crucial for them for their storage for long term. Absolutely.
Is there any reason that it can't fall within the code of the 250 feet?
That helps us with our
Building
traffic.
4 and 5.
With our traffic flow going around. So if we were to separate those and do the 25-foot in between, we lose our traffic. And also the way we have those set up with the front setback being that 75 feet, we lose a lot of valuable space of the property that we can't use
But
for
the fire
storage.
department's good with?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
we
we
spoke
talked
with the
about this.
chief, yep.
That's why those
Okay.
3 buildings to the south are attached, so to speak. If they separated them, you'd have to have, I don't know what the minimum space was, 5 or 10 feet between them. Well, that would either, they'd have to either ask for variance to the front setback on Quadrille, or reduce the space between the west wall and the west property line, and that is used for, for traffic circulation. Not only for the customers, I mean, someone pulling in could then easily keep heading west, turn around, and head back east and north again. So that additional space allows room for the oversized drives to
Get
so that
in and
the
get
bigger
out.
vehicles can make the turns.
So it prevents additional hiding spaces, and there was spaces in between the buildings.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we're turning that into our green space, like we said, in between there. That helps a lot on our engineering for water flow as well. So we'd like to keep as much green space as we could. I know it's a lot of concrete and a lot of hard surface, but we want to keep as much green space as we can.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, well, as we indicated, we had already held our public hearing, so there probably isn't, you guys are here for the next case, I would imagine, so any concluding comments from staff? I'm sorry.
No, I think as we've mentioned, I'm sorry. I think the intent is being met.
Yes.
The letter of the code is not, and actually, we're looking into how other communities regulate these uses, because I can't find a good rationale that explains our limitations. So I suspect there's going to be some zoning changes in the future.
Yeah, I have no further questions for the applicant.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing further, then if we could have, take a motion regarding BZ 25-002.
Since I wrote all the notes down, I'll make a motion.
They're also noted, yeah, they're also noted here
Oh,
too.
okay.
Those 3 points that he had mentioned, yeah.
Okay, case BZ 25-002, I grant a motion, or make a motion to grant a variance for all buildings for 50 feet instead of 40 feet.
With,
I'm sorry, thank you. The 3 of the 5 buildings exceed 250 feet in length. Allow for a 2-way with 2 12-foot drive aisles and 2 10-foot parking lanes.
Yep, I think so. I think you got it all.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Terry seconded. If the secretary will please take a roll call vote.
Ms. Warner, yes. Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
yes.
Ms. Narduzzi?
Yes, motion passes. Mr. Jackson. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I think the next step then is on to the engineering department for the civil plan review and then submit building plans up to Medina County. So I think this is probably the last thing they needed to get the other part of this project rolling.
He must be working on it tonight. All right, our next case this evening is BZ 25-004. Our applicant is Wadsworth City Schools. They're requesting a variance to allow wall signage at the new intermediate school to exceed a maximum sign display area permitted by the zoning code at 675 Broad Street in an R2 residential district. Can we have a staff report, please?
Okay, the intermediate school's nearing completion, and so I've heard from the contractors for the school. They're getting ready to install the signage, not only on the building but throughout the site. And it seems to be typical in cases that we have large-scale conditional use projects, especially in residential zones. Variances to the sign regulations are required. So I gave you a copy of the entire signage packet, and that does address some of the existing directional signs on the campus, as well as the main sign. I think I've got a copy of that here in this presentation. We'll show you. Those things, those new freestanding signs don't really require variances. The ones that do are for the ones that are going to be mounted to the wall of the new school. So, and there are 3 signs in total being proposed. And a little hard to see at this scale, but on the south wall, the south elevation of the building, we have 2 signs. One are the lettering, the pin-mounted letters that state Wadsworth Intermediate School. And then a little bit further to the, that would be to the east, there's the large Wadsworth W in the grizzly red. On the Broad Street frontage, again, just the Wadsworth W, which should be located on the fly tower of the auditorium. So in terms of sign areas, the pin-mounted signs, I'm going to see if I've got a, well, actually, I think this is a good view of the Broad Street frontage. So this is pretty much the signage you would see from the public street, which is not much, really, when you think about how big that building is. Trying to see if I can find, okay, here we go. So in terms of the signage that's on the south wall, which is the main entry to the school, Wadsworth Intermediate School, those pin-mounted letters, I think the display area turned out to be about 111 square feet or less. And that's if you drew a box around the, the entire letters. The block W that was shown on the gymnasium portion of the wall, I believe that one came out to be about 110 and a half square feet. And then the other W sign on the fly tower, as observed from Broad Street, is only about 70 square feet. So basically what we have here is a situation where we've got 3 signs, all 3 exceed 50 square feet, and the total display area comes in at 292 square feet. In the R2 districts, there is the provisions state that no individual size can exceed 50 square feet, and the total sign area for any given property is 100 square feet. So obviously we have a situation where we're not in compliance, but I think there are several appropriate reasons for granting the variances. First is that the residential district sign regulations are geared to the size and scale of the properties and buildings you'd find in a residential district, which are typically about quarter-acre lots. They're going to be mainly residential, although we have had some conversions where homes have been turned into medical or dental offices, or much smaller medical and dental offices have been constructed. So things like schools and churches are rather large in scale, and their size, typically their setbacks, as well as building massing, generally they have much larger signage needs, and I think that's the case here. Second is the school is part of a much larger school community center campus. Most of the access to these buildings is from within the site. So you come in off of Silver Creek or Broad Street, and the buildings either face south or some of them face north, but the distance between the north-facing buildings and public street, several hundred feet. Long and short of it is, not much of this signage can be seen from off-site. And in this particular case, only one of the 3 signs is actually visible from Broad Street. And that's the sign on the fly tower. The sign areas are pretty much appropriately sized given the scale and massing of the buildings. I think anything smaller that would be really not be legible. It would be out of scale with the building. I think it would detract from the overall appearance of the school. Really, if anything, I think this sign display area is runs on the small side when you think of a building this size. I did talk to the designers, and they gave me some information on the square footage of the north wall and the south wall. Okay, how big are those? And then, how big are the signage as a percentage of that wall area? And on the north wall area, this 70 square foot W only amounts to 0.5% of the entire wall area. On the south side, the pin letters and the other W only amount to 1.8% of the whole wall area. So that's really small. And I think it's a lot smaller than what you'd have in other typical conditionally permitted uses in our residential districts. And I think the thing is, it's one of those things, there's an inverse relationship. The bigger the building, the larger the individual signs, but as a percentage of the building area, it's much smaller. On smaller buildings, you have signage that's much smaller, but it represents a larger portion of the visible building front. So I think those 4 reasons, well, actually the 4th reason is that the other schools, as well as the community center with the Y and Suprema, all of those signage require variances when they were originally constructed, because they do also exceed the residential district sign requirements. So again, I think what's being proposed here is really pretty simple and appropriate. And in fact, some of the other signage that may be updated, they kind of show you what's there already. You know, Suma Health has some wall-mounted signs in the community center, the Y. And what's being proposed is really not out of scale anymore. It's in pretty good scale, just like these signs. So again, we don't need variances for the replacement of what's already there, but it's just the 3 signs on the new school building that we're dealing with. So, final thing to point out is that none of the signs are going to be illuminated, and their designs have already been approved by the ADC, subject to the grant of any variances.
Okay, great. Any questions for Jeff? Okay, at this time I will declare the public hearing open. We've already heard that this has gone before ADC, so other agencies. And at this time, I will ask for one of the applicants or both the applicants to come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and add any additional information you'd like the board to consider, please.
Andy Hills, Superintendent of Schools, 524 Broad Street, is the Board of Education office building. I don't think we have anything additional to add. I think Mr. Kaiser summed everything up very well. Obviously, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have, but we thank the ADC for their time last week, and we thank Mr. Kaiser for the time that he's worked with our team to get us to here tonight, and thank you for your consideration.
Great, thank you.
Just real quick, did they, was it not necessary to put intermediate school on the front of the building? You just wanted to keep it in the back of the building from Broad? So anybody driving by, they won't necessarily know what, I was just curious what the thinking was.
Yeah, so
on
we
that.
have signage that's directional once on campus, and once on campus, we'll direct where to go.
Okay.
The main sign that sits at the entrance with the YMCA, the electronic sign, the language that's above there will change a little bit to make it more inclusive
The
of an
monuments.
entire campus as
Okay.
opposed to just the high school and the community center. Now that, because we have the middle school that's there and now the intermediate school.
Right.
But yeah, the directional signage on the campus.
And the sign there where Wadsworth High School and Community Center, is that what it's going to look like after, or is that the one that's going to change Wadsworth?
That will change a little bit. It's going to say Wadsworth. Yeah.
Okay.
Wadsworth City Schools and Community Center.
There you
So
go.
people would know they're in the right place.
Correct.
Yeah.
As they come in, once to high school, middle school, and intermediate school. And then once they get by the intermediate school, once they're in the intermediate school, so that directional signage is up.
And this master plan shows, well, it's kind of color-coded, so shows in green are the existing campus signs that are going to remain, but perhaps be updated in terms of what they state. The red represents 2 new signs that are going to be put in, again, mainly with this intermediate school to direct traffic and bus and car traffic to the appropriate locations. And then apparently there's at least one sign that's marked in blue, and that's really an older sign that doesn't even match the other campus sign, so it's going to be refaced so that you have a consistent style within the property.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Did you have anything to add? Okay. I love the W.
Well, never mind.
Okay. Any concluding remarks? Okay, at this time.
No, I think it's pretty.
At this time, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing, please.
Motion to close the public hearing?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any conversation amongst the board members? I think Jeff pointed out a very important consideration is the percentage of the actual building itself that the signage is
Yeah.
is becoming, and it's relatively insignificant, so, we need to, that's a really good way to identify the buildings, and so. All right, if there's nothing further, if we can have a motion regarding the case BZ 25004?
Make a motion on BZ 25004, Wadsworth City Schools, 675 Broad Street, a variance for permanent signage in a new intermediate school to exceed the R2 district's sign allowance.
And that's fine, then I can incorporate in their application those amounts. So the three signs will exceed 50 square feet each, and total signage will exceed 100 square feet at a total of 292.
Okay. Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
Motion made with staff's additional remarks.
I'll second.
Okay.
Second.
We have a second. If we can have a roll call vote on that, please.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Ms. Horner, yes. Ms. Narduzzi?
Yes, thank you. Oh, excited.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
All right, so that concludes our agenda this evening. Is there any other business to be brought before the board?
The only thing I want to let you know is next meeting is scheduled for May 5th. That's the day before the election, so normally we cancel those meetings. I have two small cases that would like to keep moving. So we are going to hold that meeting, but the next meeting, May 5th, will be up in the engineering conference room. Not
Okay.
expecting a huge turnout, so we're going to do, an audio tape meeting.
It worked so well the last time.
Well, we've got new equipment that's going to make it a little
Okay,
bit
we don't
easier.
have to use our phones.
Right,
But,
yes.
good, yeah, if we can have it audio taped, that would be helpful, yeah.
So-
Great,
Just putting out those notices today, and I did clearly note that the venue is going to be changed slightly.
Okay.
We'll meet upstairs. But I think we can knock those out rather than wait an additional month.
sure,
So,
sure.
Same time?
same time, 6:30.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing further,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Good night, thank you.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.